Hi, thanks for tuning in. My name's Courtney Kaplan, and I wanted to take this opportunity to share with you a little bit about my journey up to this point. Um, this channel will have um, some very personal and some very private um, dialogue and video and testimonials, if you will. So much has happened this past year that it's extremely important to me and my family to make sure that we get the message out of how important organ donation, organ tissue, and eye donation is, and what being an organ donor means, and making sure that if you have any questions or concerns, that you message me in below, and I will go ahead and give you definitely some responses. But I do want to take this opportunity to share with you a little bit about um, my family. I am a 45-year-old female, obviously, with 5 children. My oldest is 26 and my youngest is 17. I am a medical professional. I take care of patients each and every day. I provide hospice palliative care for pediatric patients and adult patients in my area. I am currently in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I wanted to take this opportunity, of course, to go ahead and share with you a little bit about myself, my family, and some very personal and private things that have happened recently. Within this channel, you will definitely have an opportunity to meet my family and learn a little bit about what we're doing these days. But right now, I did want to at least throw up one episode and make sure that you know that this will be a place for you to visit if you ever need some encouragement, or if you find yourself in the club that I'm in, and I will explain. I hope that you find some refuge and some solace in visiting, and definitely feel free to chat, because I am an open book. I'm transparent. If there's any questions that you have, please ask me. I'm more than happy to respond. But I did want to explain to you what has happened recently, and here we go. So last year, on May 17th of 2019, it was about 1:30 in the afternoon, and I had gotten a call from the high school, and it was a time after school had gotten out. So I was a bit concerned as why the high school, the phone number came up and gave me a call like 1:30. So I went ahead and answered it, and it was a very distraught, very reserved voice on the other end of the line. She had said that your son has gotten in a motorcycle accident down the street from the school. This was Principal Lori, and she didn't know too much information about the accident, but that the authorities and paramedics were on the scene, and she would definitely keep me updated as the situation transpired. So I recall being in the car and sitting in the driver's seat, and I was at a traffic light, and I remember sitting there and just, my mouth got dry, my breathing changed, I got chills, and I remember thinking, whatever happens right now, I'm going to be okay. Mike's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. So I took a deep breath, and I picked up the phone, and I called Michael's father, and I explained to him the information that I had just gotten from the principal. I said the accident had happened right around the street from the school, which happens to be right down the street from the house. And he said that he would go ahead and see what he could find out if there's any information to be found. And in the meantime, I went ahead and visited the Life 360 app on my phone, which is how I was able to find out where Michael was going. I went ahead and tracked his phone, and he was very steadily and very rapidly heading toward our UMC, our University Medical Center in Las Vegas. I went ahead and called my daughter and my mom, and I headed that way. So upon arriving at UMC, I went ahead and walked into the trauma area, and right outside the door there was an ambulance that was reloading the gurney. And I said, hey, were you the ambulance that brought that young man from the motorcycle accident, or was that you? And he did shake his head, and I said, do you know anything? Is there anything to be said? Do you know? And he gave me a look, and I knew. My heart just sank. So I ran inside, checked in at the security desk in the trauma center, and there was the captain of the paramedic bus that had just dropped off Michael. And I said, hey, I need you to speak to me parent to parent right now. I know you can't give me a whole lot of information, but I need to know, what can you tell me about this accident? What do you know? And he hesitantly explained that it looks like a car had cut off my son on the motorcycle. And, it wasn't looking too good, but there wasn't really a lot that he could tell me. So I thanked him, and off he went. We checked in at the trauma center, and there we were met by one of the social workers who very gently led us into what's called the quiet room number 1. And this is a small room with various seating, and this is a place where families can commune and have some privacy if there are some questions or things that are happening in the case. They give you the privacy of having this room. So eventually families started to come in, and still we absolutely knew nothing about what was going on with Mike. All we knew was that, again, he had been in a motorcycle accident, and that's literally all we knew. It seemed to take about 2 hours before we heard anything from the trauma center. We got infrequent updates, and most of them were, we're trying to stabilize him, and he's now going down for CAT scan, and then we would definitely be able to bring you back when he's stable. So by this time, the principal, Lori, had shown up. One of the Clark County police had shown up from the school district, the gentleman that was on scene. My mom, my children, some friends, dear friends, had shown up as well. And I can tell you, in a room full of people that you knew as your love and your support system, people that had known you and your family for so many years, and people that you would run to for comfort, I was surrounded by my circle of amazing people. And I can tell you, when it comes to this type of situation, this type of uncertainty, when it comes to one of your children or one of your dear friends, family members, there's absolutely no comfort that can be had by any human. There's a pain, there's an emptiness, there's a loneliness, there's a vulnerability that exists in that world when you're going through something like that, that really, really all you can do is rely upon your faith and whatever thoughts are running through your head. It is an extremely lonely place, but it does lend a hand to really testing whatever faith that you may have. That is what you turn to in a moment like that. It took again about 2 hours before we were able to go back and see Michael. And when Michael's father and I presented to the emergency room back where the doctors were and stabilized him, he was very peacefully resting in bed one. I of course took the moment to scan him from head to toe, and noticed that he had some swelling over his eye, and I noticed along that side inside of his ear there was some blood dripping from his ear canal, which we were blotting, and on his hands he had some scuffs on his knuckles, just some very minor scrapes, but besides that he was just in pristine condition. He had on a hospital gown, and I remember distinctively hearing the beeps of the machine that was monitoring his heart rate, and he had a ventilator. He had a feeding tube, an NG tube, and he had some IVs, of course, going, some IV poles and pumps, just for him to rest peacefully. And I remember grabbing a chair and scooting up against the bed, right where his legs lay. And I remember laying my cheek against his foot and just feeling his warm feet and holding his leg and rubbing his feet and just having a moment like with a baby. Like it's no different. Kids, no matter what age, they're still your baby. So there you go. I took all the opportunity that I had to play in his hair and smell him and touch him and have that mommy moment with him, even though I knew in my soul that we would not be walking out of there. I just knew. So I took about 30 minutes or so while the trauma physician was tending to other patients, and I took those moments to just enjoy and run through all the memories that I could just come up with. The hiking when he was a baby, taking him on adventures, pet stores. He's a reptile fanatic, and when I say that, I mean it, a fanatic. We spent many a times at the exotic pet store picking out delicious meals in the form of frozen dead rats. Yeah. Spent many a times hiking and exploring nature. And of course, we brought home some critters. Yes, we did. This is what made Michael happy, and this is what we did together. I spent many moments enjoying that with him while I was laying on him and spending that precious time with him. Finally, the trauma physician came over, and she very kind and very graciously explained the traumatic head injury that Michael had suffered. The brain swelling was significant enough to be putting extreme pressure on his cerebral cortex, which is basically where it houses your basic of life, your breathing, your heart rate, your system, let's say. It was dangerously close to being unable to operate because the swelling in the brain was so significant. They also explained that he had a bilateral He had bilateral, like, strokes because of the brain bleed and the significant trauma that he suffered when he made impact with the vehicle. She said we might have a 5% chance of him just existing. So I took a moment, shared it with Michael's father, my ex-husband, and we took a deep breath while they were placing Michael in his trauma center ICU room. We went ahead and shared the news with our family and friends waiting in quiet room 1. There was a lot of wailing. There was a lot of tears. There was a lot of hugging and holding and trying to process what normalcy we had 3 hours ago now being thrusted into this worst thing you could ever think of. We were there. While I was searching for Michael's ID and whatever information, insurance cards that the hospital needed, I pulled out his driver's license, and I remembered the day that we went and got that license. Michael was 18, and he was able to fill out that DMV application himself, and he came to the part where it mentions organ donation. And Michael asked me some questions about what does it mean, what can you choose, like what does all of that mean. So I explained it to him, and he continued to fill out the application, and he did make a conscious decision to become an organ donor at the age of 18. I pulled out his driver's license, and when I had the opportunity to speak to the trauma doctor in the ICU, I said, look, go ahead and tell me what your findings are and what you feel is going on. And I said, hey, my son's an organ donor. So whatever happens, that's what we're doing. That's what Michael wants to do, and that's what we support. Her name is Dr. Flores, who I cherish, and she is so extremely special to me. Dr. Flores came in, she pulled up a chair, and she sat eye to eye with Michael's father and I. And she, of course, shared, the clinical, the medical speak, if you will. But she also came into my room with my son and my ex-husband, and she became a mother. She sat down eye to eye as herself being a mother of 3. And she cried with us. She was a human. And I forever will cherish and appreciate how selfless and how she treated our family and empathized with us. She shared our worst day of our entire lives. She shared that with us as a parent. That night, I got Michael's phone and I placed it next to his ear, and I put his favorite song, which is End of Summer by Cherokee. And I will definitely attach a clip of that song in the video so you can enjoy it as well. I put it on repeat. I pulled my chair up to the bed and I laid on his arm. I laid on his arm and I loved him, supported him, and supported his father. And that is where I slept. I put his hand in mine and I held it as tight as I could. He knew I was there. And there we slept. It was about 6:30 in the morning. And I asked the nurse to please give us an opportunity to speak with Dr. Smith, who was the neurologist on that day. And I wanted to make sure before we decided anything. And we've had a little bit of time for possibly his injuries to swelling to go down, and of course, of hopes that this wasn't really actually happening. And Dr. Smith was wonderful. He did say that none of the swelling had gone down, and that this would basically be Michael's existence for the rest of his life. And I knew as his mother that Michael would not want to exist, just simply exist that way. So I asked the nurse on the floor with Michael's nurse, I said, hey, can you contact the donor people and see if they can come in his room today? It was already Saturday now. And I will never forget it. Ray showed up. And immediately I knew that everything was going to be okay. He was amazing. The whole entire team was absolutely amazing. Again, at the worst time in your entire life, having somebody there to support you and who truly knew what you were going through, it made this whole thing livable. Ray explained the process. He said, first we got to check the donor registry, just to confirm that Michael, is a registered donor, and that we were going to go ahead and see whatever charting was there, clinicals, check his labs, kind of see, what we were dealing with, so that he could, let us know kind of the process and what we were going to do after that. So He popped in and out that day. He was extremely patient and kind, and just explained every single step of the way. I remember him saying that Michael has blood type as B, and Ray had said, as far as organ donation goes, blood type B is one of the rare finds, and many of the organ individuals waiting for organs with blood type B, the list is very extensive, and many of them won't find an organ in time. So there was some purpose, some pride, knowing that Michael was going to be able to help families and help someone else. And I don't know who and I don't know what, but to know that this tragedy had some sort of purpose, some sort of light at the end of the tunnel, it made processing all of this a little easier. In the meantime, I started getting more information about the accident. Up until this point, I didn't know really any information about the driver, or I didn't know really what happened. It was just, little bits and pieces came in as the day drew on. I remember learning that the driver happened to be a senior in Michael's class. I learned that he and the passenger were both seniors at Cimarron Memorial High School in Las Vegas. And again, I didn't know their names. I didn't know anything about them. I also learned that there were a few people that had chosen to pull over and help. And I will share those individuals with you in other posts. But right now, just know that finding out who they were was extremely important to me. How do you thank somebody for that? I still don't know. I still don't know. It took about 4 days in the hospital before Ray and his team, Jeffrey and Millie, let us know that there had been matches, and Michael's organs had been matched up with people in need, and that they would be able to, begin surgery the following day. And this was Tuesday. Tuesday was when Ray came in and said that they had matched organs with pending recipients, and that we would be scheduling surgery for the following day around 8. So in the meantime, we took the opportunity to do some thumbprints, and Ray was able to get a little small ticker of Michael's heart rate that we were able to put into a jar, and we were able to give those to family and friends, and of course keep keep our own. But it was absolutely beautiful to be able to have that type of remembrance to keep Michael's heart. So later that day on Tuesday, Ray and the hospital administrator had come in the room and said, hey, we wanted to know if you and your family would be interested in being the first ever UMC donor walk honoree. And we said, absolutely, we want to do that. Michael deserves that, and so does our community. So they assured me that there would be some people lining the halls, and it would be kind of forming on the wall on the way to the operating room, which is where we would leave him. So Wednesday morning came, May 22nd, 2019. Friends and family arrived Michael's trauma room. Some of his friends never leaving his side. Not once. They put Michael on a breathing bag and disconnected some of the things. And we headed out the door, down the hall. I can tell you that looking up and seeing a hallway full of mostly strangers lined the hall. Some were crying. Some were holding hands. And some just had their head bow. We turned the corner, and I looked up, and all I could see were people lining the halls. I couldn't even see the floor. It was like a hallway to heaven. It really just, I don't even know how else to explain it. It was just people as far as the eye could see. And I heard, the monitor. They had to keep that on the bed, and it was beeping methodically. And there were so many tears. Michael's siblings, friends, and family, I could hear them. It was probably a good 5-6 minutes walk as we were walking slow until we got to the last hallway, which is where the operating room is. They gently parked Michael, and we got to spend our last maybe 3 or 4 minutes with him. He had his gown draped over him, his graduation gown, and his favorite pillow, and his rubber snake. And I just laid on him, and we just held him. And I was thinking how proud I am of him, and so grateful for the 18 years that I had with him. And what an amazing human. And how was I so fortunate to be his mom.
we said our goodbyes, and they wheeled him into the operating room. Outside, UMC had several blue balloons ready for our friends and family to go ahead and release. The CEO of UMC, Mason, he presented our family with a beautiful piece of art. It was a hand-painted butterfly, and around it on the mat were all of the signatures of all of the staff and physicians and nurses and everybody that had a hand in Michael, in his care. They all signed it. It was so beautiful. It hangs on our wall, and I will share that with you as well. We gathered around as a family, and we all released our balloons together and just said a prayer. That was May 22nd, 2019. Not a day goes by that I'm not aware that I have suffered and lived through the worst tragedy for a parent. I'm aware of his absence, not only the loss, but his absence. But I'm also aware and celebrate every day my new life and all of the people and my community that Michael brought into my life. I am extremely grateful, and I am humbled by this experience. I continue to learn more about myself, about my strength, about my purpose. And I'm going to share those things with you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I appreciate you so very much. And please, if you would, take the time to watch your children sleep, stroke their head, love them no matter what, make memories with them, take pictures. I could tell you, no matter where you come from, how much schooling you have, we are all the same. What brought me to my knees will bring you to yours. Thank you so much for tuning in. Namaste.